Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A special edition of Outtakes for you tonight. We don't do this nearly as often as I would like to, and we have a special guest in the studio. Please welcome Dominic Bianco to the show. Probably many of you know Dominic, especially those of you who live in our home base here of Bethel Park. He is I'd say you're pretty much a fixture in the community.
Thank you.
You get involved in an awful lot of things. And people might say, well, gee whiz, how does this tie into the movies and what's going on with the movies here? Well, for those of you who maybe have been living under a rock and don't know yet, Dominic has written 2 successful novels. And we're going to talk about those novels and working on the 3rd.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty safe to say that anyone who takes the time to work on a novel has in the back of their mind 2 things. First, get on the New York Times bestsellers list. And second, that hopefully someone eyeballs the novel and says, this would make a great movie. And so for that reason, I've asked Dominic to come on and talk a little bit about his books because, if I'm not mistaken, there has been a little ripple or so with you and these books and the movie industry, has there not?
Yes, yeah. Well, thank you very much for having me, first of all. The book started off in 2013 as a dream. It was something where I loved my hometown. I went to high school here. And I wanted to explore the idea of a superhero in something else that I love, superheroes, in my hometown. So I started writing, and then, cut to 5 years later, 2018, there has been ripples. There has been things where people have reached out and talked to me about the potential for if my book was to be transitioned into a film or a TV show or something like that.
Now, wasn't there something about was it a tweet that went down and you caught somebody's eye or something?
Yeah,
what was that all about?
It was something where I was featured in a magazine, in a hyper-local community magazine.
You can mention it.
It's in Community.
There you go.
And I currently work for In Community.
Yes.
It's a great magazine, and it goes all over to different communities around Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. But I had the article written about me, and it was very flattering and very neat. And one of the questions was if I could choose somebody to play my character, who would it be? And I mentioned 2 actors' names. One was Logan Lerman, and one was Cody Christian from Teen Wolf.
Okay, now before you go anywhere, why did you pick those 2?
They just kind of, as I'm writing the character, and as ideally I'd like to see myself, but I could see these young actors playing this character as like a hometown guy, and gets granted powers and flies around Bethel Park, and so.
But you told me before the show that you based this whole character on you.
I did.
So you're saying you look like these actors?
No, not at all. But I mean, there's certain traits where they have dark hair and blue eyes, and that's the thing that my character has.
So one of them tagged you, didn't he?
Yeah. One of the fan clubs, and I can't think of the word. National fan club tagged me, and then his company retweeted it as well. His, I guess, publicist retweeted it as well. So keep my fingers crossed on that.
That sounds like pretty big steps there. I mean,
yeah.
You got your toe in the door. Now, how do you follow up on that?
I'm still exploring that. Social media has been huge in helping. Everything that I've done for my book has been through me. I'm not represented by a publisher. I'm not represented. It all falls through me. It's an independent publish. So getting the word out there and getting the word out to actors and movie houses and Netflix and things where I'm trying to reach out to different mediums that could film a TV show or a movie is done through me. So it's the social media has been huge with that.
I'll put you on the spot then.
Okay.
I'm the studio executive.
Yeah.
I didn't like Maze Runner or Twilight or what was the other one? Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But somebody gave me the idea of turning The Apparition into a trilogy. Pitch me.
Oh, that's a great question. The thing that I would focus on is my story, the superhero story of a young man getting powers, young person getting powers, and changing their town, changing their community. That's not unique. It's not, and I openly admit that. It's not unique. But the thing that I think my story focuses on is how two different characters who are given the same gifts, who are given the same powers, are influenced by things that kids deal with nowadays, like bullying and life choices that can make them go one way or one another. You know, it makes them good, it makes them bad. I think that's the unique aspect of my story, and how relatable it is. I think any kid from Bethel Park, and hopefully from any town all over the world, could pick up my book and go, I understand this, or I relate to this. You know, so it's relatability. And the fact that he has superpowers is cool. I think it would be successful.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Now, if you take a look at a movie like Wonder Woman, and you take a look at Black Panther, which were recently released,
Right.
and even Thor, Ragnarok, they just did great business
Yeah.
at the box office.
Yeah.
Despite that, there is a feeling currently among the trade magazines and the Hollywood pundits that the superhero genre may be running its course, that perhaps it's being stretched a little bit too thin, especially with them getting secondary characters, if you will, to base movies around. If that shift that the experts say is occurring, then why a superhero?
Well, why a superhero? I think I always liken superheroes to ancient people's version of the gods. It's something where they always have a story to teach. They always have. There's something about them that can teach anybody anything. And it started off with kids, but adults, we love superheroes. I think their story, it never gets old. I feel like that's why there's trends, and you might see them be bigger at certain times and kind of fade away and then come back. But I mean, a superhero is kind of timeless. I feel like everybody looks for a hero. Everybody wants to be a hero.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think they're ever going to go away.
Well, you got two big companies. You have DC and you have Marvel, and really, they're at the stage now where they could take a garbage can, put a cape on it, and make it their new superhero, and you'd have people buying the comics and what have you. So knowing you have those two juggernauts, then how does your approach to the superhero differ that would be visually stimulating?
Yeah. A lot of I find inspiration in DC and Marvel. I love seeing the movies. I love reading the comic books. Something that I think could set my superhero side is that it is so not small town, but it is small town. It's not a metropolis. It's not a Gotham City. It's not. It's something where I think, even though heroes are something that everyone looks up to, at times they can be hard to relate to. I feel like kids want somebody that can go, this could be my older brother or sister. This could be me. This could be, it's somebody who is a kid themselves, but they are finding out who they are. A lot of times in DC and Marvel movies, the hero is already an established person. They're Clark Kent's a reporter. I'm trying to think who else. Batman's a millionaire. Like there's, like they have all these amazing jobs, and they're successful, and they live in mansions, and they live in great apartments. And I feel like the thing that's different for Apparition that I do kind of like, and it's something I appreciated about Spider-Man and some of the younger heroes, is that these are kids. These are people who are teenagers and are fighting crime and having to make the right decision.
Do you feel a compulsion to place into your stories certain values because you're leaning toward a younger audience?
Absolutely, yeah. I feel like there's, and it sounds funny, I'm a local author, and even though I have sold different places, and it's a huge honor, I'd hope that my writing can affect kids from all over. So there's a responsibility to not only just for my books, but for myself as well, to present myself in a way that wouldn't be disrespectful or would be compassionate, things like that. I always want that to reflect in my stories as well. That if a kid who doesn't have anybody else, if he doesn't have a friend, if she doesn't have parents to talk to, if there's something going on with a child who picks up my book just by chance and reads it, that they feel like they have an idea of what they'd want to do as a hero. They'd want to be compassionate. They want to be responsible and effective and that sort of thing, like Angelo's in the story.
Are you using your own value system as the foundation, or are you calling different values from different resources?
I always look to friends and myself and as inspiration, and I don't like saying my own inspiration, but I do like to look to people that I respect, my family, my parents, my sisters, my nephews. There's certain things that I will take from them and give to my character of Angelo, and to make him more relatable, and to he struggles with things, but it's ultimately how he overcomes them and acts on it that makes him the hero. Everybody has struggles,
sure,
and so does the character, but I like how he overcomes it and that sort of thing.
Now, you're working on the third book.
Yes.
But this is not a trilogy.
It is not a trilogy.
Okay. And you envision this going how long?
Well, that's another great question. I did an article a couple years ago where they had asked me where I saw the book series going, and I said the main point of what I'm trying to get through for Angelo Drake's The Apparition story is going to be done in 3 books, but it's not the end of Angelo's story in 3 books. So without giving too much away, the third book will be the changing of Angelo's story. It's going to be different than any other apparition book, and then that's going to phase into a new type of a new storyline for him. So the apparition series I could see going on for a while. Mm-hmm. I have ideas now where I'd like to kind of form. I've never said this on TV. I'd like to form like a league. I'd like to form a group, not just of one hero, but of several. Mm-hmm. So I'm exploring that. I don't know if that will be in the apparition series, but I know that Angelo's story will not be done after book 3.
There are a lot of authors who create characters and make them run for so many novels, and then the fans mm-hmm. actually demand more, and they have to come back and God, that's been happening since the Pulp Fiction days.
Right.
So that's something I guess that we can now. But not only is Angelo's story changing, but if I remember correctly, so is your writing, because the first 2 books were pretty much written first person mm-hmm. from Angelo's viewpoint.
Yes.
But now in this third one that you're working on, you're incorporating different voices.
Yes.
Well, what prompted that change, and how are you approaching that now, and do you think that'll rattle up your readers?
I hope it does. Mm. It's a shift for where the story needed to go. In the third act and of this particular story, that's hard to. There's a lot of other things going on mm-hmm. where you have to see other characters' point of views. And for fans that have read the second book and finished it, they're left with a lot of unanswered questions, which was my intention, about what's going to happen next to a particular character, what's going to happen to family members, and I want to kind of start to explore their voices and to see how they view the apparition, how they would view Bethel Park if there's a superhero flying around. So I think that's fun. I hope I do it in the right way. I hope it's clear for readers to go, I've read books before where I've gone, wait, is it this character saying this, or is it this one? So I hope I do that. I hope I do that well enough, but that's going to come down to me as a writer, if I can do that.
Well, there are some writers who will alternate chapters. Some chapters will be third person mm-hmm. omniscient, and others will be first person singular, depending on the character. Is that what you're doing, or are you making like a hodgepodge here?
It's kind of, a hodgepodge in the sense mm-hmm. that it can even break from at times paragraph to paragraph.
Oh my.
So there are.
That's got to be tricky.
It is, but it's fun. It honestly makes for a really fun writing where you're kind of always on your toes, going, what's this one going to say? What's this one going to, how's this one going to respond to this one? It's kind of neat. And honestly, as at myself, I've grown as a writer. Where when I wrote my first book, it was something where I just wanted to write a book. I wanted to do it. I wanted to say I did it. I had this idea. I didn't know where to go with it, so I started writing. But then the second book, I was like, okay, I did it, but now I want to do it better. And I feel like the third book is kind of, I'm pleased with what I'm reading right now. I'll go back through, and a lot of writers will tell you not to do this, but I think you should. I'll take a break from it, and I'll go, I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going to, and if it can get my interest again, then I go, okay, I'm onto something, and I want to keep writing.
Now, for the uninitiated, and let's not obviously give away too much, but give the viewers a thumbnail sketch of basically what's behind the apparition and what your books are dealing with.
Okay. The apparition is a 17, 18-year-old young man, and he struggles with himself. He struggles with how he feels about himself, a lot of issues that kids deal with, how they look, how they talk, how they interact with their peers and family members, and kind of feeling like a sore thumb, feeling like a black sheep of the family. And this is, before he becomes a superhero. He has great friends and a life that he likes, but he just kind of feels out of place. His father is an archaeologist and entrusts him with an artifact to run to the museum.
We have an archaeologist in Bethel Park?
We do now.
Okay, very good.
And the father's always out on digs and out on excavations, and he entrusts Angelo with a simple task of running this artifact to the Carnegie Museum. And Angelo is busy, and he forgets, and he makes excuses, and he, just like any normal kid probably would do, and gets into a car accident one night with the artifact. And the artifact and him become one. He gets superpowers, and they develop gradually. And he realizes that now, after all this time, he's finally given what he's always wanted. He's given the thing to make him stand out, and he uses that for his ability. He fights crime, and at the same time, and this is the thing that I was telling you about, two different paths of characters. At the same time as Angelo is fighting crime and trying to become an asset to the city, and having his family and friends think he's this amazing guy without really knowing it's him, there's a villain who develops superpowers in a very interesting way, and it's intertwined with his life, and this character has not had the best life. So the character goes and becomes a villain, and there's a great fight, and there's a love interest, and there's all this good stuff that you want to see in a superhero novel.
So what exactly are the superpowers that Angelo has, and why did you pick those particular powers?
I've always been fascinated by water. I love it. I think it's, the idea of it is neat. I think powers based on it are neat. And I wanted Angelo's powers to be very water-based. In addition to that, we kind of have the perfect city for it, for the three rivers, and there's a lot of ideas of threes in my book. There will be three superpowered heroes. There will be three different villains. There will be, it's about threes. So Angelo's powers are based in water. The new character in the second book, his powers are based in something else, and we haven't gotten into that yet. But Angelo's is water, and he can make force fields. He can project the force field out of him into a blast. He can read minds. He can now he can fly after the first book. He's strong and he's fast, like everybody wants to see in their superhero. But yeah, the things that really define him are like the force fields, the force blasts, and they're very organic. When he puts up a force field, for example, in the first book, and it's the things I would want to be answered. So when he puts up a force field, instead of it just being this magic force field that jumps out of his hand, he can feel it moving over every blade of grass and every bug and every, it's very organic. And then if his force field gets hurt, he can get hurt. If he's not strong enough to pick up a car yet, and he does that, he'll get a nosebleed. There's things where it affects him. I want it to be as real, as realistic as a superhero could be. Sure. So
Now, when you begin writing, the first thing that most experts will tell you is that once you're near completion of your work, you need to find an agent. You tried that, and it didn't work. What happened?
There were a lot of times where I would send out to agencies, because that's always most people think that when you write a book, you get picked up by the publishing house and that's it. You're good to go.
Yeah.
And I found out that to do this, to get picked up by a big publisher, you need to have an agent, just like an actor would. So I had submitted, and it's a grueling process to submit. And then I encountered one potential agent who wanted me to change certain things about my story that I didn't want to. It was something where I didn't like what was expected or what was supposed to be changed, themes that I didn't want in my book, and I declined it. I passed it, and that's when I really decided I'm going to make this work as an independent author.
Now, this was the agent or this was the publisher?
This was the agent.
So, had you made those changes, there's no saying that the publisher would have said okay.
No, right. This is solely on what this agent, who's a very nice person, thought, and I disagreed with
They wanted
that.
agendas in the book.
Right.
Well, we've never heard that story before.
Yeah, and it was something where it sounds funny, and I tell this to a lot of people, but writing a book or making a movie, or I'm sure it's like having a kid almost, where you put so much time and energy into it, and not that you expect so much out of it, but you do care for it. So to have it altered in a way that you don't see being your way, that's why I decided to go on my own.
So, if you were looking back at episodes 1 and 2, how would you judge in your own mind their success?
I am floored at some of the things that have happened. I still, every single artist or writer, I'm sure, looks back and says, I would have done this differently, I would have done this differently. The first book was definitely challenging. It was my first book. And there were grammatical errors, some, and there were some editing and that sort of thing that I look back at now and go, oh, the second book I'm extremely proud of. I'm very happy with it. In terms of success, and I mentioned this in a previous interview, there were times, like I had done a Comic-Con, Steel City Con, and it's I've said this story a lot, and I hope it's new to you. But I was really pushed into doing it in a good way. Pushed. My older sister, who had helped me market the book for a long time, was like, I really think you need to do this. She's like, this is the kind of community you want to get into, and which I knew, but I was very, very hesitant.
This is the one out in Monroeville they have. Okay.
Yeah, I was extremely hesitant about it, because I was like, I'm a guy with a self-published book. I don't know,
Right.
I don't know what I'm going to do.
But they bring in some pretty big names for those shows.
They do, and it wasn't any reflection of the Comic-Con. It was a reflection of myself as a writer. I was like, I don't think I'm going to be successful here. And I get there on Thursday night, and I was stationed between this really cool cosplaying group, which the people that dress up, and they had these really interesting people dressed up and meeting with the fans, and then there was a Star Wars fan group that was right next to me, and I'm just sitting there with my book, and I'm like, oh no, like I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know if I was going to.
You thought the Force was not with you.
Exactly. So I thought, I was really, really concerned about it, and I did not think I was going to be successful. And by Saturday, we had sold out of books, and people like the idea of a hometown hero, and that's something that I attribute to my success. The other thing was, and this happened fairly recently, I believe it was around Christmas, I'm in a store out in Peters Township, and there's a little girl, and she keeps looking at me, and I'm like, what is she looking at? Like, I didn't know if I had something in my hair, I didn't, something in my teeth, and she motions to her mom, and her mom bends down, and I'm like, what is going on? And she walks up to me and she goes, my daughter read your book and she really likes it. And
wow.
that was probably one of the coolest things that ever happened to me.
Geez, how old was the girl?
Probably 6, 7, something like that. Which is not.
That's not your target audience, is it?
No. It might have been an older brother or sister that read it, and
yeah.
And she might have come. I've done a lot of book groups where kids will come and.
And she recognized you from your photo on the back of the book with the pipe and the smoking jacket and all that stuff.
The pipe. Yeah, right.
That's pretty cool stuff, though. Now,
It's
there's
so neat.
another Steel City Con coming up, I believe, next month. Are
Yeah.
you going to jump into that, too,
I'm not
or-
doing next month because I want to have the next book done and finished before we go into the next one.
And what are we looking at target date for that third book?
We're getting close, but it's hard because I'm actually in the time that I'm writing this book, I'm also working on a second book that doesn't have to do with apparition. It's my first branch off into.
Yeah, we should talk about this because what do you have, like 10,000 fans on Facebook?
No.
But if you look at Dominic's Facebook page, you'll see all these posts about dinosaurs and dino facts, and here's a neat picture of a dinosaur and everything like that. So in your second book, you're leaving the world of superheroes and going into the world of Dr. Alan Grant.
Yeah. For now,
Can we tease that a little bit? Can you talk a little bit about about that book?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
So apparition, I am not taking a break from, but I want to explore other things. I've gotten really comfortable with Angelo and the apparition, and I have an idea of where the story's. I know where the story's going to end and all that good stuff. But now is the time where I was like, I really want to start getting into other writing and see what I can do. So I started. Jurassic Park and Jurassic World have always been huge things for me. I love the movies. I love anything to do with it. And I had been interested in dinosaurs before Jurassic Park. I was probably 7 when Jurassic Park came out. But I wanted to, there's a lot of things, and again, I love Jurassic Park, but there's a lot of things in Jurassic Park where the dinosaurs don't act as accurately as a real animal would. So I wanted to explore the idea of a really realistic dinosaur novel with people in it. So
that's
what
where
I'm
we're
doing.
going with
That's
it.
where I'm going.
And you see this as another series or just a one-shot deal?
For now, it's a one-shot deal.
I got you. Well, we met before we sat down in the studio, and we were chit-chatting for hours, and I think we could probably do that again now, but Clock on the Wall says we're fast running out of time. So I certainly hope that something out of this tweet and out of the publicist and all that catches fire for you.
Thank you.
That would be kind of cool. We could sit back and say, hey, I knew that guy when. And, it'd be nice to see something a little bit different besides these same old superheroes that are coming out like that. And something that would have a little local flavor to it, I think.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think that'd be worthwhile.
I will always, no matter where, if I am lucky enough for this to become a movie or a series or it would. I always say, and I've had a lot of local businesses say, "Would you, friends of mine that own the businesses, would you keep it filmed in Bethel Park?" And I said, "Absolutely." That was Bethel Park to me was the catalyst of this story. So,
we'll have to have a scene inside the studio while I'm doing my show.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe we'll get into the third book. You never know.
Now, if we piqued anyone's interest in the closing moments that we have, and they're interested in the books, how can they get them?
The easiest way to get them is through Amazon.com. Those are there. It's Apparition Saga. That's the first book. The second book is Apparition Saga: Rising Sun. They can be purchased at Rickert and Beagle in Mount Lebanon. I do conventions all the time. And I'm there. Where else? Oh, we're on Audible too. So if you're not a reader and you want to throw it in and listen to it in the car on the way to work or whatever, it's on audible.com. It was read by Rick Waldmiller, who's an actor in Michigan. Really cool. Great guy. Yeah.
Dominic, a lot of luck with that.
Thank you.
Hey, that's all the time we have for today. We got to skedaddle out of here. We filled up the half hour rather quickly. The book is the Apparition series. You can find it in all those, Amazon.com, right? Mm-hmm. Best place to get it. We wish Dominic an awful lot of luck with the book. And until the next time, I'm Fiore. I'll see you in the theater.